Can I please get a motion to get out of recess?
Second?
Motion has been made and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Councilors, welcome to the second night for the budget hearing. Today is on Thursday, May 22nd, 2014, and we will be discussing the following departments: Council on Aging, the Public Library, Other Human Services, Greater Lawrence Technical High School, Lawrence Public Schools, and the Charter and Choice Schools. Councilors, can I please get a motion to take document 176-14 out of table? Which is the budget.
So move. Second.
Motion has been made and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. We're gonna get started with Council on Aging. I know Director Martha Velez is here today. Council on Aging is on page
154, I believe.
154. Okay, that's right. Thank you. Page 154. So just a brief overview. Last year, we approved $203,000, $303,327. The mayor is now recommending $193,161, which will save the city of Lawrence $10,166. And we have Director Velez here with us. Director Velez, anything that you would like to point out in your budget?
No, as you pointed out, we were asked to do a 5% cut, and that's what we did. And my budget reflects what I've asked the mayor with that 5% cut to make sure that we get an office clerk. I think it's very much needed. I've been a one-man pony for everything that goes on administrative and financially at the senior center, and I feel that I have a big need for that right now at this point. And the mayor and Mark and Lisa Teresi and myself met, and that was my needs, and that the budget reflects that cut so that we can continue to do our work, our tremendous work that we do at the senior center.
I see a cut for program assistants, 2 positions here. What was the salary of these 2 positions? Because
They're part-time. They do 19 hours a week, and they're basically, they were seniors that work downstairs. One of them retired, and the other one I will be picking up on a grant.
Okay.
So it reflects as a cut here, but it will be picked up somewhere else.
Okay, so in reality, we're not necessarily losing the person.
We're not losing a person, we're losing a position, but we're not losing a person because that person retired. And as I continue to work, as I continue to work with the National Senior Aid Program, they send people for us to train, which are seniors, and it's a way of them making money. And we try to get people to come to the center and work as a program assistant. And hopefully when their term is up, we can pick them up somewhere to work in the senior center.
Councilors, are there any questions?
Yes, I do have questions. Do you have a new, I'm sorry, through you, Mr. Chair. Do you have a new office clerk?
That's the position that we're going to put in. So hopefully starting in July, I can post for that. It's not new, it used to be there, but when the budgets were cut before, that position was terminated.
Do you currently have that person there?
I don't have anybody there.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
Councilors, are there any additional questions?
I do. I got a couple questions, Counselor. Chair.
Councilor LaPlante?
Sure. So, number one is there's one cut here. What is the most painful cut that you're going to face, and then what impacts would that have?
Well, of course, when you have to, one person retired, I can't fill that position, so that is painful. The fact that I don't have operating expenses, that's painful. But you learn to live with it. I mean, you have to be a team player. You know that the city's going through financial problems, and while we get on the right road, we work as a team and do what we have to do.
On the revenue side, can you tell me what revenues are coming in through the senior center, if any?
Yeah. Well, when I apply for grants through partners, that comes in. The formula grant comes in through the state, which pays $8 an hour per elder right
What
now.
would that be called? I'm looking at the budget, and maybe this is where Mr. Rhinello could be.
Oh, revenue, you mean to the general budget? No, I put our revenue goes into the revolving account and grants, right, Mr. Ianello? Yes. Okay.
So in page, and this might be a better question for Mr. Rhinello, through page 13 of the budget through 18 or so, all different revenues, I just want to make sure that, is any of this stuff covered that's coming through your department, any revenues?
No revenue goes into the general
I see
budget.
abatements to the elderly, is that something that comes across your desk at all?
That's through the assessor's office, and we get a cherry sheet. State reimburses us for some of those abatements for the elderly.
And while you're there, Mr. Rhinello, please don't sit down.
Yep, right here.
One of the things that we talked about in the last two city councils, at least the last couple of years, is the use of an abatement to get volunteers to work. And as I understand it, that was going to be funneled through the senior center. Now that we're here together, can you give me an update on that?
There's an abatement program that one of the counselors was looking to implement, and we came up with a program for it, but I don't think it's been implemented. We came up with some guidelines for it with Martha and the assessor's office, but I don't think we've implemented that program.
What's stopping us from implementing it?
Mayor's office?
I guess we would need the current mayor's office to review the proposal with them and see if that can happen.
Is there anything I can do to help with that, Mr. Rhinello?
I haven't pursued it. I mean, I put the work together to kind of get the groundwork done, but I really would not like another thing on my plate unless I need it. But there is a program in place, or there's some policies in place to begin the program if the city so wishes. We think we have some forms and some other things. One of the major concerns for Martha, however, was she doesn't have staff to coordinate such a program. So that was the one missing piece. So, could she do it? Yes, she certainly would initiate something, but the city does have to decide, how we're going to use these seniors to offset some of their tax bill.
So if I'm reading between the lines, we're doing a cut in the department and we're losing one in staff. Is that going to impact the possibility of getting this program off the ground?
Well, actually, she's getting a
clerk.
She's getting an office clerk.
Right.
And one part-time person retired, one part-time person is being picked up at a grant. So her budget's going to remain the same. The challenge always was with that program is how was it going to be, how much work was it going to take to supervise these seniors and to place them, intake them, and then place them in departments to manage this up to, if I remember, up to $500 and credit off their tax bill.
And your assessment right now, Ms. Velez, is can with your staffing, will you be able to absorb and be able to administer the program? Or because of the current financial structures and your personnel, that's just not going to happen this year?
Well, I wouldn't say that it can't happen. I would say to you that right now, we're a city agency that serves anywhere between 200 to 400 people a day. We only have 4 full-time people. That's myself, including me, so that's 3 plus myself. Basically, everybody that is there is through a senior aid program that's being trained to be able to have the tools to go find a job, to be able to do the maintenance, the secretarial work. So as I looked at the program, I'm all for servicing elders and wanting to do this for elders, but I think we need to look at the structure, and I think there needed to be more conversation. And when it came across to me, and I met with Mr. Ianello, and then it was supposed to go to the mayors, and we were supposed to have conversation as to how this was going to look and how much time it would take, because you're talking about volunteering, but you have to have a volunteer coordinator. You have to have a person that's going to outreach to all the departments to make sure to see who needs help, keep track of all the time, file those papers, then file with the assessor's office. It's a great program, and every program is good, and when it benefits the community, it's even better. But everything takes time and energy.
My last question, and so I'm not sure what the answer is on that, so.
I would
don't-
say that I 100% want to support this program.
I get it.
I would say that we need to have conversation. I would say that this is something that we can sit down with the new mayor and discuss what is the possibility, what do they think can be done. I wouldn't say no. I never say no. I don't think that there's a reason to say no. I just think that we need to sit back. We worked through, while we were trying to get this program going, on how we create policies and the applications and all that stuff. So we've been doing work behind the scenes. And that's all really I can say to you, if I'm being totally truthful with you.
Okay. My last question, when was the last time you had a pay increase? A raise?
Can't
Possibility.
remember. Probably like anywhere between 5 to 6 years ago.
You haven't had a pay increase for 5 or 6
For,
years?
yeah, 4, well, when I took over the director's job, I got a pay increase
Sure.
because I went to a different job, but I've been there for, now it's going to be 4.5 years. I haven't had a pay increase.
So no pay increase for 4 years. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councilors, any additional questions? Councilor Reyes?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Velez, to be here with us this evening. Before you knew that you was going to have a cut, do you have any plan to implement any new program in your service? Or that is something that is going to affect you now with the cut, even though you're not the only one is going to be hurt?
Thank you for the question. I can tell you that as an administrator and somewhat of a perfectionist, when I put something together, I want it to work, and I give it my 100%. So if I have to make a decision on whether I'm going to start something and do something halfway, I think it's not good to start. I think we can put it in the back burner. I think that we need to find ways to help people maybe in a different way for right now. And trust me, I've had like 2 people call me about the program, and I've had them come in and sit down with our outreach worker and go over what expenses they have, what programs they have, is there anything that we can try and help you apply for? You know, do you have food stamps? Can we get you, housing? Anything that we can help in that kind of aspect, that's what I try to do. So in that aspect, I want to help people as much as I possibly can. But I think that if we start something that we can't really do well, I don't think we should start it. And basically, when I start new programs, it's because I've made a partnership with someone. Money is very hard right now. I'm not, anybody that's writing grants or looking for money, it's very hard to come across money. Everybody's looking for partnerships, so I spend a lot of time trying to make partners with people, the organizations, 501c3s. We're not a 501c3. A senior center is looked at as a municipal agency, so when you apply for grants, most of the time you get turned down. They feel that the municipal agent should pay for your expenses. So I find partnerships, and I tell them about what I think that we need for programs. They go out, find monies, we partner, and we start something new. That's what we do. I mean, I saw a need for food for the elders. I partnered with Elder Services and the Boston Food Bank, and today we're giving 1,500 bags a month of food to people every single month for the past 4.5 years. But that's a partnership, and it started with only 200 people. 3 years ago, it went to 900. Today, it's 1,500. And actually, we're having conversation about the need, because I have 300 people waiting on a list, to bring it up more, or maybe add up another day. This year also, we gave 20,000 pounds of food to the veterans, because I know that there was a need. Partnered again with somebody else. I mean, as of today, right today, 340 new members have come into the senior center, 340 new people that need assistance. That's from July of last year to April of this year. So, we've serviced over, 50,000 units of services have been given out. There's a lot that my staff done. And if I say anything today, I want to thank my staff, because we're all lucky, you're lucky, the mayor's lucky, that we have staff that's dedicated and has compassion to help the elderly. And if anybody doubts that, I ask you to please visit the senior center. And if there's something that you see that's wrong, please let me know, but I can guarantee you that you'll be served with dignity and respect and always welcomed.
Yeah, the fact that I've been visiting the senior center more than, a few times in the future, if it were to be up to which that this is not depends what we're gonna provide it or not. Which one can be the most important thing that you want to implement it or bring to your center?
I think the first thing that I can say is that if I can have the security of staffing is essential. I mean, to be able to have a core staff that you can say, this is what I have and this is what I can work with. But, it's very difficult to go out and find monies to, pay for this person, to pay for that person, and pay for that person. So you're going out there trying to find monies just to stay afloat. Because the need doesn't go away.
Councilors, are there any additional questions?
Yes, I have one.
Councilor President Maldonado.
Martha, when you cut 2 program assistants and chose instead to hire a new office clerk, do you feel that office clerk is going to cover for the lack of those assistants?
I have been fortunate, blessed, that 2 wonderful women have come forward from the senior aid program that are bilingual, and they're being trained to help downstairs with answering phones, questions, and so on and so forth. This office clerk, I can tell you that we all have titles. There's no such things as titles at the senior center. No one does one job. Everybody does whatever's needed. It's a team effort, and we do what we have to do.
Okay, thank you.
Councilors, are there any additional questions? I just have one comment here, and it saddens me to see under purchase of services that $5,000 has been taken away for instructors. I know that the work that you do relies a lot in contracted instructors that come in and do great programs for the seniors, and that's something that I didn't want to see. That I think that $5,000 will take a big hit on you and the seniors that attend your programs. And there's classes that are such as English classes, ESL. You have cooking lessons, if I'm not mistaken. You have aerobics, and and I'm sure that this will have an impact in the programs that you're going to offer. So I just wanted to say that we will have
I can assure you that that part of it will come out of the revolving account. So I am committed to keeping those classes, and I'm committed to making sure that seniors have, the recreational part of it, the socializing part of it, the educational part of it. And, I want to let you know that in our classes, like you say, which are instructors that are seniors, that have been educators in their countries, and come here and become educators, since 2011 to 2013, 125 elders became citizens of the United States of America through our program.
Say that again, how many?
125.
Since when? I'm sorry.
2011.
128, you said since?
125
25 since 2011.
since 2011.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay. And we continue to provide classes. There's citizenship classes for free for anybody that's 55 and over at the senior center, Monday through Friday. And that will not go away, because that's the reason we work hard to make sure that we're able to raise money to put it into our revolving account to give back to the elders. And the way that I give back to the elders is by looking at the needs and fulfilling those needs. So, and we're also part of the team that the mayor's trying to put together the ESL classes and, unify them better. And I'm also sitting at that table to make sure that the seniors are also taken care of.
Thank you.
That they're not the forgotten child.
Councilors, are there any additional questions? Councilor Toomey.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Martha.
Hi.
Just a very general question. When budget time comes around, you develop your own budget, is that correct, based on your needs?
They tell us, yes, this is your budget, fill in your needs, and then we meet, and then they tell us if they need to, make a cut, and then we make our cuts, and we submit our budget.
Okay, now, were you familiar with the cuts that are being made under what the mayor is recommending?
This budget that's here is the budget that I submitted.
The budget that the mayor recommends is the budget that you submitted?
He asked for a 5% cut, and that's what I put in,
So you put these cuts in here then?
so that I can have an office clerk, yes. And it's not really a cut. Please don't think that, we had to cut $10,000, right? So we had to find it somewhere. It's a cut. But it doesn't mean that we're losing any people. We lost one position, but that person had retired anyway. And then the other one is going to be picked up under, the mayor gave us $10,000 under CDBG for the evening exercise program, and it'll be picked up under that.
Okay. I just wanted to know if these cuts were made known to you prior to the coming down as being recommended by the mayor, and this is what you have recommended to the mayor.
I was asked to put 5% cut, yes, it was. It was told to us that we needed to do a 5% cut.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Velez, thank you very much for coming tonight, and for providing us with all the information that we need now.
Thank you for the opportunity
Hello.
and the questions.
I know that Director Velez, stay on the podium. We have another one for Director Velez, which is Other Human Services. It's on page 161. Yep. So it's a human assistance program. Last year, we approved $35,000. Now the mayor's recommending $30,000. What this is specifically is for elderly health. Director Velez?
It's a contracted service, so what we do is we contract with the Home Health VNA, and the Home Health VNA comes into the senior center and does, once a week, does blood pressures and diabetes screenings. Nurses come in and people can talk to her about the medications, any health issues that they want. They also provide exercise classes 3 times a week. They also do any health fairs that we have. They do foot care for elders at a very reasonable price. You can't go to a podiatrist today and get it for $15. They do it for $15. So if there's one thing that I fought essentially for, is that I said to the mayor, please, and Mark, this is very much needed. This is something that I believe in. This is something that really helps elders that don't have the capability of checking their own blood pressure, their sugars, their feet, which are essential to today's health, and any diabetic or anybody, especially an elderly, has to make sure that they're healthy so that they can continue to live a healthy life.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. You have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a nice night.
Now we're going to move on to the public library, which is on page 170. We have Director Nima here with us. Page 170. Okay, so for the public library, last year we approved $1,014,599, and this year the mayor's recommending $973,891, which has a difference of $40,708. Thank you. Director Nemo, why don't you go over your budget
I
with
just
us?
turned out some, just statistics for this year's usage rates, and
Okay.
just for your information, so I don't have to.
So Director Nemo here provided us with information about the library overall, how successful it was during this fiscal year. And I think this is very good. There was a circulation of, wow, that's over 100,000 books were circulated in the library. Is that correct?
Yes, and we've greatly increased our number of library cards, mostly through our program with the, working with the school department. So we're coming into, we went into every freshman class at the high school, at all the different academies, and made sure every student was given a brand-new library card, regardless if they had lost one, and we just want to start everybody fresh. And we did presentations for all of the classes, too.
Wonderful.
On how to use our fabulous webpage.
I see that there's no changes in your staffing. Currently, you have 18 people. Actually, there's a change from what I see. The assistant director has been cut, as well as the administrative assistant. So there has been an office manager that was added, and a circulation coordinator. Are those changes something that will benefit the public
Well,
library?
the office manager, administrative assistant, it's just a change of nomenclature to describe the first person, who was Mrs. Audie. It's that primarily, her actual job title was changed to that some years ago, and it keeps appearing as administrative assistant on city documents, but not on other documents, so we just wanted things in line. And so that's the same person, so that's the same budget.
Okay. Do you think that you need 2 circulation coordinators?
Well, that second circulation coordinator position was put in by the mayor because the other assistant director wasn't funded. And so he put that other position in there to, basically, it was just put there to be used as what it was needed to be used as. So there will not be a second circulation coordinator. It was just a place to put it in a line that was already there.
Okay. And now, so if we're not going to have an assistant director, when you are not at the library, who will be the second person in command?
Well, with this current budget, the budget that I have here, the bottom line on it is fine and everything like that. There are a few personnel issues in here that I think we're going to still have to, we're still kind of, my Board of Trustees is still in conversation with the mayor's office about what is actually the most practical thing to do.
Okay. Councilors, are there any questions?
Yes, I do.
Councilor Aquino.
Through you, Mr. Chair, thank you. I see a cut of 13,145 under the books and subscriptions. How can that affect your department?
We're fine with that. It's, depending on the city's fortunes at any given time. We have been down to as low as 0 in that for several years running. What that signifies is how much the city, in an ideal world, the city is supposed to pay our entire mandated book budget for the state. However, that during economic trouble starting in 2008, it became recognized at the state level as well that that was very unrealistic, and most of the communities in the Commonwealth cannot afford that. But and so they've allowed us to use some of our state funding money to cover this mandated amount of money spent on books and subscriptions. So obviously, what we want is to see higher numbers there. It is just something that we can cope, but we'll still come out with the necessary amount of money spent on books and subscriptions. It just means that we have to lean more heavily on our state aid monies. But it's kind of an area that we have some wiggle room in it, and without putting the library at any risk of being underfunded in that area, we have to spend 12% of our budget, and how we get that money or what monies we use is pretty much at our discretion.
Yeah. My other question will be, there is a cut on energy for 35,000. How are you going to manage that? What's the plan to save 35,000?
That was, no, what was submitted at that level was 105,000, and it was just, I'm discussing with Lisa Teresi in the mayor's office. I talked to her Monday and pointed out that the 125 was not what was submitted. We submitted 105, which corresponds to what it in fact costs us for energy in the library. What I think the mayor's office might have just looked at was the year-to-date spending and then calculated what would seem like would finish the year. The problem with that is it didn't take into consideration several huge bills that we get at the end of the fiscal year, including the one to get air conditioning going and all like that. So I have already talked to Lisa, and my administrative assistant Denise has sent her over the papers and the numbers to show that, that it needs to go to what we submitted. But I think I don't think that's actually a problem. I think it was just something that the mayor's office was not aware of, and they were just drawing the logical conclusion for the numbers that they'd seen year to date.
Okay. All right. I don't have any more questions.
Counselor LaPlante?
Sure, so the same kind of questions I asked earlier. Out of all the cuts that we're facing, which are the ones that are gonna cause your department the most pain and how? Which cut?
Losing the assistant director position, but but it's not a cut in the sense, we're okay with the overall cuts, because we worked very hard to come out with a budget that cut the 5%. But some of the things that we submitted are not what have come through, and so it's like we're losing this position, but I'm hoping we can possibly restore it without it costing any more to the city in terms of a bottom line on this budget or anything else. But as far as the overall cut to my budget, it's not a joy, but as Martha said, we all have to live with what we have to live with. There are problems, and we all have to make sacrifices. But I would not recommend changing the bottom line here. I would just, I'm concerned about that position going away. And I feel, I'm hoping that further conversation, and, and it is the will of my Board of Trustees, who are our governing body, that position be funded.
Now, I look at your budget, you didn't get a 5% cut, you got something less than that, because the 5% of that figure is $50,000.
I'm sorry?
I was just doing the math on this. The cut that you're facing is 40,000. The 5% is actually at 50,000, so it's not quite a 50% cut. A 5% cut is a little less than that. But I mean, this department is taking a drastic hit. I mean, tell me if I'm right, but in our recent history, we had 35 employees there at the department, right?
We did.
And now we're down to what, 18? So we're almost at half staff. And what does
Yes.
that require? We're talking about having the library closed on weekends, correct? At least on Sundays for sure.
We have
North
all
side.
closed, yes, and on Saturday, we only open in the branch,
Yeah.
because that requires only 2 people, as opposed to 5 people who are necessary to run, bare minimum, to run the main library during the daytime.
Now, give me some perspective on that. Lawrence Public Library, in a major city in the Commonwealth, we're not opening up our library, the big one, on a Sunday. Compared to other municipalities, how does that rank? Is that kind of a typical thing, is it atypical compared to the Lynn's, the Lowells, the Brocktons, the Tauntons,
Well,
Chelsea's?
that really does depend on the libraries, because there are also, the state doesn't really keep much of a record of that, other than once a year. They'll publish how many hours of Sunday time a library's open. But our hours of opening are determined by the population of the city. And they don't really care at the state level what hours they are. Obviously, you and I know we're better served to have the library open on a Sunday afternoon for a few hours than to have it be open from 8 to 9 at night. 8 o'clock is a fine time to close. But I can afford to have I have to have those hours. To have people work on a Sunday, it's overtime money. And to have them work at night, I just had to change my 2 shifts, so that people the later shift was starting later and working till 9. It is not ideal, but it is, it's what we could do, it's what we can afford to do.
When was the last time either you and your staff got a pay increase?
We recently, the non-union people were given a pay increase in the fall, and then
When?
In the fall of this year, there was a
So
non-union pay raise.
2013? Non-unions got a pay
Yes, at the
increase
end of 2013.
Okay.
And then there's the union
Yep.
people, which is most of the staff, they were recently given a pay raise retroactive back to the beginning of this fiscal year, and then with the second bump that's coming, another 2.5%, which would start at the beginning of fiscal year
You're
15.
pretty much caught up to speed. There's been pay increases, and you've made up for things, and you're up to speed to where you probably should be, you and your department.
Yeah, right, I'd say as far as that goes, yeah, that's not a problem.
And the last question, or potential question, is revenues that you're bringing in. As you know, we have a series of revenues that we bring in to the city on our revenue side. Can you highlight which revenues you're bringing in that are going into the city?
Well, we bring in the revenues, of course, our state aid money. We bring in revenues from various trusts and,
Yep, I'm just looking forward on the revenue side, that's all. And you don't have the budget in front of you, so you're a little handicapped as far as providing that info. So let me,
There are some revenues brought in by the library, lost books, library fines.
Yeah,
and
those-
some photocopy.
There it is.
And it's on page 14, and it looks like it's 10,500 is the estimate for next year. This year, they've brought in, so far this year, approximately 11,100.
and all that goes to the general fund? None of that
That
goes
goes
to the
into the
library?
general fund. The rest of, the other monies I was talking about are funds that come in, but they're used for specific purposes within the library itself.
And so I just got those fees. Anything else that's coming in? You said there was other monies that we would have in the revenue side?
But not
Grants.
revenue in terms of for the general fund. What Ms. Rhinell is saying is pretty much it. There are just other funds that come in to support our continued existence and our ability to offer programs and so
Now, that
on.
all reflected in this budget. That's totally outside of the
Right,
budget.
right,
It gets
that-
audited, but it doesn't, and I'll get
Exactly.
those numbers through the audit, but not through the budget.
Right, and that's why I'm saying to Councilor Aquino that book budget, that what we have for a line item in the city budget does not correspond to what is the state requirement, but there are other monies coming in from the state that allow us to fulfill that.
Thank you.
Councilor Aquino?
Yeah, I just need some clarification here. We have 2 new positions. One will be office manager. Is that a new person or just changing the name? Because
It is this woman right here. It's
Okay.
just that she was existing in certain documentation as the office manager and others as the administrative assistant. So we decided to put her in as a job title that is in fact her job title. And as you can see, it's where one new one and one new office manager and one fewer administrative assistants. But it's the same person, the same job.
All right.
And no
Good to know.
change of it.
I will hate to see that they are laying off people to hire new people and not giving the chance to whoever
No,
is
that
inside
is
the
not a layoff.
department. So that doesn't apply to the assistant director.
No, that's completely separate. The assistant director, the prior assistant director retired
Okay,
in January. And it's a job that we wish to maintain, but it was not maintained in the budget that was sent down to me.
okay, okay. All right, thank you.
Sure.
Any additional questions, councilors? Okay. Thank you very much, Director.
You're
Miller.
welcome.
All right, we're now going to move on to the Greater Lawrence Technical High School. We have representatives here from the Greater Lawrence Technical High School, including Mr. Laveau. And
Good afternoon, everybody.
good afternoon. Why don't you just give us an overview?
Sure.
Just start with under tab 2, which is the budget background for the fiscal year.
Well, first of all, at Greater Lawrence Tech, October 1st report, we had 1,486 students, including our school choice students. Of that, 1,058 students come from the city of Lawrence, which is an increase of about 15 students from the previous year.
15, you said.
Yes. And that makes up 71.2% of our students come from the city of Lawrence. This year's budget from state aid, chapter 70, we will be receiving next year, 2015, $21,192,544, which is an increase of $952,384. The member community minimum contributions, which is determined by the state formula.
Do you say-
The town of Andover is $284,895. The
Superintendent.
city of Lawrence,
One question.
Yep.
When the change that you said for chapter 70 money that we received, the change that I have here is 945,000, and I think you gave us a different amount, if I'm not mistaken.
the difference that you have,
Yeah, I have 945,711, and that's on page 32.
section 4, page 4.
When you adopted the budget, and at this time of the year, it was this amount, and then in July it changed, but it was such a small figure that we didn't go back to the school committee to adjust the budget,
Okay,
which is why it's the difference on the two pages.
okay. Thank you for the clarification there. But, so the correct amount is the one that Mr. Lavoy
Yes.
mentioned? Okay, thank you. Okay,
If you look at the, where I'm taking the figures from, it's section 4, page 4. So if you look at Lawrence's minimum contribution this year, it's $824,705, which is an increase of $55,771. For miscellaneous revenue this year, we have $50,000. For our total member contribution, it's $4,446,591. For a total estimated foundation revenue is $25,689,135, which is an increase of $773,361. For our non-foundation revenue, for the SBA grant, we have a total of $2,714,038. That's coming from the state. For regional transportation, $510,000, which is in both cases level funded. A total.
Chairman, excuse me, sir. There's a technical phrase here, and it's important. It's called foundation monies. I just want to make sure I'm clear as to what that means.
Foundation money is the money that is used, operational money to run the school that goes towards the education of students. That specifically is determined by the state how much money we have to spend to educate our students, and that comes from foundation money. And the state formula for the contribution that each city and town is determined by the state, by the legislators, and that's where the city's contribution is determined by the state. But that's our day-to-day operational funding of the school to educate that impacts student programs.
Okay, so that's foundation money. State gives a lot of money to the school district. We have to chip in something. That's foundation money, all right?
Right.
Non-foundation money? What does that mean?
Non-foundation money, this is money that's above and beyond the actual operation of educational programs, which is made up of, non-foundation money is made up of busing, also made up of the addition that was put on the school building authority money that was approved 12 years ago by the state, and the cities and towns agreed to fund as well, and also capital improvement funding that the cities and town pay. So there's three different areas that make up non-foundation, three categories that make up non-foundation funding revenues.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. So when you look at non-foundation revenue, we have a total from the state, which is for the building construction and for foundation, of a total of $3,224,038. The member community assessments for non-foundation for Lawrence was $1,293,762, which is an increase of $266,984.
One more question. That's where we're chipping, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, that's where we're chipping in again. So we got two
Right.
places that we're chipping in. Foundation for 55, non-foundation for 206, an additional
Right.
55, an additional 266.
An
Chipping in.
additional 1 million. So in terms of foundation, the city's assessment is $824,705.
And
For
1.2.
non-foundation, the city's assessment is $1,293,762. $762.
Got it. Thank
Which
you.
is an increase of $266,000 from last year.
Got it, thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for the clarification.
So the total that it's coming from the city is $2,118,467 between the two.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we can continue.
And so our total non-foundation revenue is $5,041,175, which is an increase of $413,315, for a total estimated revenue for 2015 of $30,730,310.
Okay. Councilors, are there any questions so far in the revenues?
John, can you talk briefly about your, the program that you are bringing back to the school, the machine shop?
Yes. About 2 years ago, or actually 4 years ago, when I first came back to the school, I realized they had shut the machine program, and having worked in other vocational schools, I had witnessed a huge growth in the machine area. We started to see that manufacturing was coming back to the state, and so about 2 years ago, we decided that we needed to start looking at bringing back machine shop that was closed 7 years ago, because there was a huge need for machinists in the Merrimack Valley. There's over 100,000, they're predicting over 100,000 jobs over the next 5 years as machinists, so we decided to open the program. We been working closely with the state, with the Department of Housing and Economic Development to try to obtain a grant. We finally did receive a grant of $1.25 million to bring back the equipment and machines and bring back the machine program. So September of 2014, which is this next coming school year, we will be opening a new machine program, which will have the newest and most advanced equipment in order to prepare kids to be machinists for the future. Not machine operators, but actual machinists, which are high-paying jobs that will open up many opportunities for our students. We are going to be running both day programs and evening programs for underemployed and unemployed citizens. We're partnering with Northern Essex Community College, which will eventually be opening a associate's degree program in machining. They'll be working closely with us so our kids can transition from Greater Lawrence on to Northern Essex Community College to continue their education if they want to pursue it at the college level. On our evening programs, we're working closely. We've been working closely the last 2 years with businesses throughout the area to try to build an advisory and partnerships with industry so that we can train future machinists for particular companies, so they'll hire our students directly out of school. So that, fortunately, from the state getting the 1.3 and also almost $500,000 in funding, private money, to fund the program. Many companies have provided us with in-kind donations, both in terms of money, equipment, and materials to start the program. So we're investing about $2 million into opening that program at no cost to the cities or towns, direct grants from the state.
How many students do you project that you are going to start serving initially?
Initially, we're hoping next year to bring in between 20 and 25 freshmen. We're going to transition the program freshmen and each year add another grade level. We are looking at bringing in some 10th graders next year who may be in metal fabrication that might want to transition over to machine shop, because we know we have some kids that would like to be machinists. So we're looking at that as well. And we also will be offering evening programs next year where we're looking for funding, working with the Workforce Investment Board to try to find funding so that we can run an evening program as well for those people who would benefit from retraining.
The vocational school in the past used to be really popular with offering adult education program in the evenings. And obviously, because of funding, all that disappeared. Is there any intention in the near future to create some retraining programs for the community?
Yes, we are, each year we have been looking to try to increase our evening programs for adults, particularly underemployed and unemployed in the Merrimack Valley. And one of the challenges we've had is funding those programs. There has either been no funding, or when we try to run a program, there's many adults can't afford to take programs such as that. Excuse me. So we are working with Department of Labor and Department of Economic Development to try to find funding in the future to fund these kinds of programs. And we're seeing that the state is becoming more and more involved in seeking funding, both federal and at the state level, so that we can offer those programs. In the past 2 years, we've increased our apprentice programs at Greater Lawrence Technical School. We've offered some evening workshops throughout the city to have citizens come and learn about apprenticeship, for the most part in the construction areas. So we now are offering apprenticeship programs and starting next year, it will be plumbing, electrical, HVAC, carpentry, and metal fabrication and welding and pipe fitting. New apprentice programs. We've partnered with an institution called Gould Institute, which is a private evening program, apprentice program, that's working with us more closely to offer both scholarships and opportunities for unemployed to come in and take those kinds of programs.
Now,
So
those
that's
apprentice
one area.
programs are during the night.
These are all night programs. Yep.
You used to have postgraduate programs for high school students who graduated, but did not have a training. Are you
Yes.
still offering that?
Yeah, those are the kinds of programs that we're trying. We have a program now in Auto Tech where people can come in and try to pursue a program in automotive tech, to become auto technicians, which we've partnered with Northern Essex Community College in that particular program. But we do want to offer more programs in the medical fields, biotechnology, STEMS program. We're looking at starting a program in both electronics and pre-engineering as an evening program. We are doing an evening program in training people to be electronics technicians that is starting in the end of May of this year, which we've partnered with the Workforce Investment Board, where they are selecting 20 citizens to come in and train to be electronic technicians and get 2 certifications when they graduate at the end of the summer in August. And that is being opened up to, which we've asked the Workforce Investment Board to have at least 75% of those candidates come from the city of Lawrence who are unemployed. So we're working closely with them as well to train people in the electronics field. We did have a machine contract with them as well, but because we didn't get the machine program off the ground quickly enough, we went to the electronics, and Whittier's doing the machine part of this particular. And this is federal grant money that was that the Workforce Investment Board received along with the community colleges. So we're looking to do more of those kinds of programs, and that's federal and state money that was provided. So we are looking to have the school opened up to offer more opportunities to be utilized. We see, Greater Lawrence, we truly believe that we're a community school and that we rent a building. We offer a lot of programs for our citizens to utilize the building through rental at night. The building's used from 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock at night every year, every single day, just about, for all kinds of people. Our fields are used by many of the youth groups who come in after hours and use our fields. Pools used just about every minute of the day. So the school is open not only for day programs, but for night programs as well, which we really believe that we need to offer and find more opportunities for helping those in need in terms of finding a new career and opening more programs at night to facilitate that.
What is your current student population now?
Our population, actually in the building population is about 1,320 students during the day.
22?
Day school, yep.
And how many are from Lawrence?
1,058,
1,058?
yes. Oh, that's including our school choice kids.
No more questions.
Councilors, have any additional questions? Councilor LaPlante?
Great, thank you. So my understanding is that your school is getting better and better, and it's becoming, my understanding, and I don't know this to be a fact, more competitive. And so you're actually, it's my understanding, turning away some individuals who apply for the school because a lot of people want to go, it's supply versus demand. You only have so many spots, so you become more competitive. In the city of Lawrence, what is the acceptance rate for Lawrence applicants?
Good question. I didn't bring the admissions data with me, but I would say that I can tell you the acceptance rate in Lawrence is about 70% of the students all the students that apply each year, of the ones that we accept, the highest percentage is coming from the city of Lawrence. Presently, it's probably somewhere around 60% of the kids that we accept each year from the city of Lawrence.
No, I get that. I understand that the biggest chunk of the student population at the school is from Lawrence. I get that. I'm just trying to get a handle on.
Well, how many students are that?
No, I want to understand that if you have 1,058 are from Lawrence, I want to know that 1,200 people applied, that 2,000 people apply, and only 1,058 are able to get in. I'm trying to get a sense as to
Yeah, so
what
any
kind-
particular one year, so last year, we had approximately 1,000 students apply to Greater Lawrence Technical School.
Yep.
And of that 1,000 students, we took on 375 students. And in terms of how many of those 1,000 students were from the city of Lawrence, I can get you those numbers, but I don't have the numbers here. And of the number that applied, how many did we accept? I don't have those figures with me. Those are all in our admissions data.
Okay.
But I can get that to you. I can get the numbers, exact numbers to you.
So just the numbers you gave me so far, I said 1,000 people applied for last year for a single year?
Yes.
1,000 people, and that's amazing because 1,058 of the entire student body is from Lawrence, right? And what was it, 375? What did that represent?
That's how many we take in each year. We take in 375 new freshmen each year.
So 1,000 people applied, 375 people got in, which tells me that you're at a 37% rate, almost 38%
Of
rate.
acceptance, right, of those
Acceptance
who
rate.
apply. Yes.
So that's pretty selective. 38%. You have a 38% chance, now I'm extrapolating, right, to other communities, but if you are applying for the Greater Lawrence Technical School, you have a 38% chance of getting in. That means your chances are more likely than not that you're not going to get accepted if you apply for the school. Am I?
Looking at those odds, sure.
So we are turning away more students. Now, tell me a little bit about Whittier, and what does that present to you? So we have students from the Lawrence school system going, and I'm guessing the greatest competition was Whittier, which is in Haverhill.
Yes.
And so how many students are we, I wouldn't say losing, I'm not sure that's the right word. How many students are moving or
How
going to
many are
Whittier?
going from Lawrence, how many go to Whittier?
Yeah.
52 students go to Whittier.
How
who are
many?
coming from Lawrence go to Whittier.
How many?
52.
52?
52 students go.
I would
And
think it
then
would
for
be more.
each one of those students, we get, again, I like the word nut, a little nugget, we get a little bit of money, right, for each one of these that are coming back into our coffers, is that right?
Yep.
What's that amount?
Well, let me explain to you how it works. For every student that goes to Whittier is considered a Greater Lawrence Technical student. They're considered our students, so the money comes to us. So when we look at our total enrollment, it's 1,486. Of that enrollment, 1,333 students are at Greater
Too many
Lawrence.
numbers, I can't absorb it all that quickly, all right.
So what that means is that 52 students, if the per pupil cost is $17,000, let's say, we're getting $17,000 for every student that goes to Whittier,
17,000 times 52?
times 52. Then the state says we have to send Whittier, of that 17,000, we send Whittier 5,000 for each student that goes there. And we keep, at Greater Lawrence Tech, the other 12,000.
So we keep 12.
So we're getting $12,000 for each of those 52 students are staying with Greater Lawrence Technical School.
So it sounds profitable. So actually, if you want to say make money, although we're not a business, we actually
Benefit,
benefit, thank you, benefit by $12,000 if a student goes to Whittier.
yes.
And that's going to be offset in programs and
Yep.
education and everything else.
Yeah. And
So
there's
it's almost like
another
an
advantage.
incentive,
There's
in a
an-
weird way, to have people go to Whittier, isn't it? Kind of a weird incentive?
Well, let me explain the other benefit to Greater Lawrence to have those kids go to Whittier is that because 52 students are going to Whittier, we can take 52 more kids from Lawrence that we wouldn't be able to take. Because we take 375 students, and if that 375 students, any one particular year, there may be 20 freshmen that end up at Whittier, that's 20 students more that we can take at Lawrence, because 20 of the kids who belong to the city of Lawrence went on to Whittier. So it's a win-win for the city of Lawrence, it's a win-win for Greater Lawrence in all perspectives.
Wow. How about flip it around? Are we losing, are we getting other students coming into our school?
School choice, we have, I think, 4 school choice students in our, is it 4? Is that? 9, we have 9. We have 9 students that are, that we're getting that are from other districts. I think we have a few from Lowell, from Greater Lowell, we have a few of their students. We don't have a lot of school choice students, and we're not promoting that because it really is not a big benefit to us, other than we get $5,000 for each one of those students, those 9 students. So we get $45,000 for those students, but it actually costs us more to educate those students. So the school committee has to vote every year for us to be a school choice school or not.
Right. And even, so here's the wacky thing, right? So even though we're turning away kids from the Greater Lawrence area, we're still accepting kids, students from other areas. Why would we do that if our rate is 37.5?
Well, some of the reasons is because they started at the school and then they moved out of the district. So we'll keep those kids until they graduate. That's, for the most part, that's the main reason why we have them.
And so are we, just the reciprocal, are we losing about $12,000 every time for those students?
We don't
Or
really lose
17 or whatever?
12,000 because we have enough students. The number is so small that we just, it's taken in our budget. It's not like it costing us 12. So if we had 20 students in carpentry, it's not going to impact the budget in terms of costs. It's maybe 1 student out of the 20 becomes part of the budget.
I'm going to be generous and say, let's say that 37.5 is not the numbers, actually, let's say 50%. Let's say we're turning away 50% of our applicants, for whatever reason, numbers, whatever the reasons are. So let me go into a place that could be a little bit challenging, but the spirit of what I'm about to ask is actually for Lawrence residents and for Lawrence kids and for Lawrence families. And in that spirit, I'll ask this challenging question that could raise some eyebrows. How many of these individuals who are going to your school do you keep track that are undocumented?
How many do we keep track for what?
That are undocumented. In other words, either not documented, they're not U.S. citizens or don't have the right documentation.
Oh, you're talking.
Do you keep track at all? Is that impact at all on what's going on in the city?
Oh, if they're,
And in your school?
you're saying if they're illegal citizens?
That would be you wouldn't say illegal citizens,
we don't-
right?
As far as.
Because you have a green card, you could have a lot of different things.
Yeah,
So
we
my
don't, as
question-
far as I'm aware of, we're not aware of any students that are illegal students in terms of, do we keep track of should they be in the system or not?
Yeah, is that even a consideration at all? And you understand the
Do we
spirit of what I'm
consider that in
saying?
terms of our admissions? No.
So anybody can come in and apply, and that's not a question that's asked at all. You don't have a fundamental
Well,
understanding.
they come from the school, they come from the sending communities, so we take students that are coming from the middle schools of Lawrence.
Yeah.
They have to come with their records that they are a student from and they get their recommendations from the middle school guidance counselors is one of the criterias that any student that's coming to Lawrence is recommended from their guidance counselors, and they're coming from a middle school from the city of Lawrence. We don't take students that are applying from a school other than Lawrence if they're considered Lawrence students. So every student that comes to us, their records come with them. They're part of the admissions policy. We look at their attendance, we look at their discipline record, we look at their grades. So we're looking at their student records, which means we are verifying that they're coming from the school system from which in one of our 4 communities, districts.
So I'll ask that question when the LPS comes over, because it sounds as though that's being pipelined through. I mean, what I want to find out is if I just came here from Canada, from Quebec City, and I came over the border, right, and I somehow got into the Lawrence school system, even though I'm not documented and I'm not registered, can I go through the pipeline? My concern here, follow the logic here, is that I'm taking a spot of some other kid who has the right qualifications or whatever, or documented, and I'm taking a spot away from that individual. And I just want to, and if we're cutting half of the, I'm being generous here, if we're turning away half, is that even a factor in that? I want to make sure that that kid that went to the DR, that's a U.S. citizen, that's a first immigrant, and that family can get in that school. That's my concern, because they've done everything they're supposed to do, right? Whether it's from the DR, whether it's from Ecuador or Guatemala, I don't care where they're from. I want to make sure they're in, all right? And I want to make sure they're getting a piece of that pie. What I don't want to see happen is that we're having people who aren't part of the fabric yet, they're not documented, et cetera, getting in. I want to make sure we're taking care of our own first before, and I'm not sure that's even a factor.
Yeah, well, there are certain things that we cannot, it's like we can't know students as special ed students. We don't, if there are students with particular issues or problems, it's blind admission. So we are not accepting students based on the criteria that you're talking about. No, we can't accept or not accept students based on that criteria. Yeah. We're not able to do that.
I'll ask that question of LPS. They might have a better answer because they're getting it on the ground floor more so than you, potentially. So, okay.
Yeah, just a point of information. The school systems in Massachusetts are not required to ask, no, they're not required. I know that one particular town in Massachusetts voted to require an immigration visa status on students, and I believe that they were sued by the state and the federal government. So that is not something that is required right now. So when a student goes in, the school department is not going to ask for whether they have a visa, permanent visa, residency requirement, nothing like that, no.
Wow.
No. And that is across the U.S. I think there's only one state, if I recall, Arizona, which has been very aggressive in handling illegal immigrants. It's the only state probably that has that requirement, but in every other state, there is no requirement to be in the school system. Now, colleges, yes. In order to attend college, when a student graduates from high school, in order to attend college, they are required to have to be legally in the United States. And even then, the federal government passed a law that allows those students that have gone through the public school system, even though they are here illegally, they are allowing those students to attend college. So the federal government passed a law allowing that.
I'm going to do a little more, thank you for that clarification, and I'm going to ask the school department if they have any more information to share on that as well. And Mr. Lavoie, thank you. If you could just email me or the committee the information on that,
Sure.
on the mission stuff, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for all you do.
How many students do we have on SS Aggie out of Lawrence?
That's Aggie out of Lawrence. You have yep, we have that.
Yes.
It's in one of our files here. I believe it's somewhere around 38 students.
138?
Yeah, it says 38 students, prior year data, so for this fiscal year it's 38.
Yeah.
Are there any other schools that are considered vocational schools that Lawrence students go to that are not attending a Greater Lawrence Technical School? Are there
No.
any other? Just SS Aggie and Whittier, right?
Yeah, and Essex Aggie is not a school choice school. It's a county,
Oh, it's not
up
a
to
school
this
choice?
time, it's in a county school, so you pay whatever the expenses, whatever the assessment is from per student cost, is a direct cost to the city of Lawrence. So we don't
So it
get any
doesn't
money
go
for
through
them.
you?
We don't get any money for Essex Aggie, because that's a whole different, it's because it's a county school. And when the new school opens up next year, it'll be a totally different assessment, because they're going to be a vocational as well as an agricultural school. So if students from Lawrence go into the agricultural program, then you would be paying the full, the city of Lawrence would pay the full tuition for those students, because they're not a school choice school.
The school went through an extensive remodeling and a program and added spaces,
Yes.
but yet the student population has gone down. Can you explain why?
The student population, I think, went down before I, went for, at one point, I think there was about 1,500 students. And the population went down. I'm not sure why it went down, because it was before I got there. I know that based on our personnel that we have at the school and based on the space that's recommended by Department of Education with regards to each of our programs, is how we determine what our maximum amount of students that we should be servicing in our school. And so that's where we get our number of approximately 1,300 to 1,400 students is the range in which we try to bring in students. So
I remember that when the expansion was done and that there was going to be a projection of approximately 2,100 students.
yeah.
So the addition of space was based on that projection, and yet we are still way below that projection.
Yeah, if we
So-
had
so
2,100
it is not
students,
clear
they
to
would be sitting outside in the front lawn to get them all in there. To be honest with you, there's no way that we would have space for 2,100 students in our particular building, based on the way we're educating our students and providing services to our students. Even our shop space as we have now, in some cases, we're barely meeting the minimum requirement or the maximum requirement allowed by Department of Education for square footage. So when the school did it, if we had 375 students in each one of our grades, we would have about 1,500 students. And that is always our target, to have 1,500 students in the school and try to maintain 375 in each of our grade levels. And I think that truly is what the school was really designed for. Back when they did the addition, I'm not sure what figures or estimates they were using when they projected 2,100 students could fit in the building. We would have to add more programs, which we're always looking to do, actually.
No, I know that you have cut a number of programs, and obviously that
Yeah.
has affected the enrollment.
Yeah.
Hopefully, with this new machine shop program, that enrollment will hopefully increase at least by another 60 students, hopefully.
Yeah, well, our projection is 4 years to have another 100 students in the school because of machine shop. But we are looking at some other programs that we'd like to increase in the building that are viable programs. We're actually starting a new partnership with National Grid to offer a linesman program, so kids would come out directly and go to work for National Grid as linesmen, as an offshoot of our electrical program. So that's going to be the only one in the Commonwealth that has that particular program, which we're starting next year. So we're also looking at some other future programs as well, because we're doing feasibility studies. We're looking to do some feasibility studies in the future that will have better data on where are the future jobs and what programs should we be offering, what programs should we be closing, so we ensure that the students we're educating will have opportunities for jobs of the future and be trained so that 10 years out they'll be prepared for real careers.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the expenditure. We haven't discussed in detail that part, and I also want to remind everybody that we have approximately 1 more hour to be able to conduct the budget hearing, because at 7:30 we have an ordinance committee meeting. So if we could just reviewed the expenditure. I believe it's on page 5.
If you look at section 5, page 5, you see a breakdown of our expenditures. And you'll see on there are function numbers that are determined by the Department of Education and the function description, and those are the areas in which we fund our operational budget. Starting with administration, instruction. Administration has decreased by $15,000. If you look, $15,945. Instruction has increased by $754,013. And the big reason for the increase in personnel, that because we have a grant called, each year we get a Chapter 74 Perkins grant, which is a federal grant, which we get about $600,000 a year from. And that's to fund new programs and equipment for Chapter 74 programs, our vocational programs.
How many
They only allow
instructors?
us to have personnel in that grant for 3 years.
How many instructors is this going to fund?
Excuse me?
How many instructors?
In that particular grant do we carry? We carried about 6 or 5. Perkins this year, about 6. Plus, we had other personnel in that grant. So about this year we had 3.5 instructors that were in that grant are coming out of that grant and going into our into our operational budget, into our foundation budget.
All right, thank you. And I have a question with regards to the administration and the instructors of the school. Is it representative of the student body? Meaning, I know that there's a very large number of students that come from the city of Lawrence. I'm going to take a wild guess that the majority of them are, most likely first-time generation in the United States that might not have necessarily the greatest English language skills and might be in learning still.
Yeah.
Is it the instructors and the administration representative of that? Like, do we have enough staff that will mirror?
Instructors, ELL, so students that are English language learners, who are typically students that are first generation or have language issues, are covered under what we call our ELL programs.
I wouldn't call it language issues. I will say more that are learning a new language, but I'm a second language learner, and I never had a language issue. I just didn't speak English at a certain time. So just a correction on my part. Thank you.
Okay. So I guess I don't understand the question. Are we funding programs for students who may have difficulty in terms of
Not necessarily the funding of program, but like, is the staff representative of the student population?
or are the tasks, or are the staff a percentage represented in terms of if 70% are Latino, what percentage of our staff are Latino?
That's
Is
correct.
that your question?
Yes.
Yes, we don't have, I would say no, we don't have an equal, not even close to 70% of our staff being Latino. We probably may have 10%. If we have 10%, that may even be, it's
wow.
and it's not, we've offered, when we post, bottom line, I would say, is that we're not getting a lot of Latino applicants. But we do, we've done workshops at the school to promote opportunities for Latinos to get into education. We did a program 2 years ago where we did an at-night program to offer a workshop in learning how to become a vocational teacher and academic teacher, which we've put in the papers, posted all over the city. We had about 100 people come to that in an effort to try to get more Latino applicants to apply to our school to be educators, both on the vocational and academic side. Mm-hmm. And then again this year, we did a workshop to try to get more Latinos into the educational vocation, particularly on the vocational side, to get them to understand what are the criteria to be and what are the regulations that they need to adhere to in order to be an applicant for a vocational teacher. And so in terms of we've contacted colleges, educational programs at different colleges, UMass Lowell, Salem State, putting in ads trying to encourage Latino students graduates to apply at Greater Lawrence to become teachers.
Wonderful.
So we have made some efforts in trying to, we haven't just said, well, they're not applying, but we have tried to make an effort in trying to.
No, I think that's very important to have,
Yes.
you know, some sort of representation where students will feel more than comfortable approaching anyone that
Yes.
could, you know, be there
Yes.
for support.
Yeah.
Let's just move on. I see in transportation you have two different lines. One is transportation and then pupil transportation. Could you explain the difference between the two?
I guess I'm having a hard time hearing what you're saying.
So we have here transportation and then pupil transportation.
Yes.
So what is the difference between the two different line items?
Oh, and this transportation is for, transportation for programs at the school that happen during the day that we may transport students to either a function, we transport students to our off-site work. We have an off-site work program.
The mic?
We have an off-site work program. So the funding for transportation that's in our foundation budget is for programs in which we educate students outside of the school, and we have to get them there.
Okay.
And that isn't covered under non-foundation funding, has to come out of our regular foundation funds. So that's why there's a transportation line item for that. Okay.
So then the second line
Oh, so
item,
this year, that's right. We took that and put it under student activities budget, which is a different line item.
okay. And how do we pay for transportation? Is transportation per bus or per student?
The cost of transportation is per student,
Per student.
which sets that cost is determined by the Department of Education. And they set what they'll pay. The Department of Education says, we'll pay whatever, a certain percentage of the busing, and then the communities pay the remainder. And that's gone down over, when regional transportation, 20 years ago, the state made a commitment to pay 100% of regional transportation, but each year they've paid less and less, although this year they've reimbursed a little bit more. So whatever our busing costs are, the state will fund a percentage of that, and then the rest of the funding is distributed amongst our sending communities based on how many students you have coming to the school.
Okay. Councilors, are there any questions on expenditures?
Just another question, John. In terms of, the question was asked on the ratio of minorities in the instructional group. How about the administration? What is the ratio of minority in that area?
I would say the ratio is, so we have about 20 administrators, and Maria is our only Latino.
I'm sorry?
We have about, throughout the whole school, we probably have 20 administrators, including our business office, educators.
No,
and
specifically on the administration.
Administrators, we have approximately 20 administrators, and we have one Latino out of the 20.
One.
One out of the 20.
Okay. But she does not deal with students. I mean, she's in the business office, am I correct?
Yes, she's one of our most important administrators in the school.
No, I
She's our
understand.
assistant business manager. She's actually right now probably one of our top 4 administrators in the school. Because she's considered
So in terms of direct
administration.
student services, there are none?
Oh, in terms of, no,
Okay.
not right now. No.
All right. Councilors, any additional questions on the expenditures? All right. I know that the rest of the booklet is more, a more detailed description of actual expenses. I think unless councilors have any additional questions, we should move on. Would you like to add anything final?
I just thank the council, thank City of Lawrence, its citizens for supporting and funding Greater Lawrence every year. We try to meet the needs of the students, and our goal is really to try to transition more, meeting our vision, which is to ensure that our students are ready to go into the workforce and be productive citizens within this communities when they graduate. I think if you look at the data, you're seeing that academically and vocationally, our students are improving and getting better. We have more kids. We've doubled the number of students working this year in co-op from last year, so we continue to grow and try to meet the needs of the educational needs of our students in the city.
Councilor Nilka Alvarez has one final question. You had a question?
Just one more question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I'm just curious about the special education. Are you receiving additional funding, like from Turning 22 or any of the other state agencies or federal agencies, in addition to the revenues that are here? Is that included in this budget?
Yeah, special ed is included in our foundation budget, but also we get a federal fund, IDEA funding, approximately, I believe it's around $350,000 for our special ed grant. Approximately $350,000 for special ed through a federal grant. We also get some money through Medicaid for special ed as well. So we do have.
So you do get some Mass Health or Medicaid, and that pays for what, like speech therapy or?
Yes, yes. And we also, we have in our budget where we provide speech therapists. That's part of, when you look at our special ed accounts, you'll see that it's broken down, that we spend approximately $80,000 a year for a speech therapist in our school.
So you draw down $80,000 for Medicaid per year? Just saying.
Medicaid, I'm not sure how much, the Medicaid, how much we get a year for Medicaid.
Last year, we got about 50,000 back. Well, we submit the numbers to the state as far as our services for our students, and we get about 50,000 Medicare reimbursement.
50,000. Is that an actual payment for the full service, or are you carrying some of the expense?
We carry a large expense of this.
Yeah, that doesn't,
Because 50,000 seems so
That's just the
low.
reimbursement we get for services that we're providing to our special ed students. That's like on the Medicare billing piece of it. We just submit our expenses, and for certain people who are connected to our special ed students, and then we get a reimbursement to the state. Probably, it used to be around more like 70,000, but that's just a reimbursement. Our expenses that we have for special ed are far beyond that.
Right, so it's not even a matching fund, it's
oh no, they don't come even close to matching.
not even, huh?
No.
And the special ed transportation, does Medicaid help with transportation, or you're carrying that cost too?
It's not really Medicaid, it's our Medicare reimbursement, so it's.
Medicare.
They're paying Medicare.
Yeah.
It's not Medicaid, it has nothing to do with that. But our transportation is part of our non-foundation budget that was talked about earlier, so it's kind of what the cities and towns pay for. We don't carry that on our operational budget.
So if you have any additional services, after-school activities or things like that, you don't have the Center for, the CMS pay for any of that? The Centers for Medicaid and Medicare
No,
services?
no, no, that, we also have other kinds of grants, educational supporting grants that we support some of our after-school programs. Like we'll offer an academic support program for students. We have after-school help. All those programs are busing, for the most part, for those programs become part of our busing budget, or they're part of a grant that we may get, that we get each year, an entitlement grant to support at-risk students, which includes special ed kids.
And I was curious because, I was doing, managing a CMS demonstration grant, And one of the things they said is that Lawrence doesn't seem to take advantage of the grants that are available, of the matching funds that are available. So that's why I was asking you about Medicaid
Okay.
and, and Medicare specifically.
We're not really part of Lawrence, I mean, we're our
No,
own
but I mean, but
district.
you serve Lawrence
Right,
students, so
but
they look at
the number
per
of our-
student rather
The
than,
number of our special ed students is much minimal compared to like the city of Lawrence, so we don't qualify for certain things like circuit breaker.
okay.
and different
Right.
kind of things that we would, like Lawrence would qualify for, Greater Lawrence doesn't because we're so small in the sense of special education.
So how many special ed students do you have, do you know, do you have an estimate?
Yeah, we're about 30% of our students are special ed students, so
30%?
we have
That's
approximately about
significant.
350 to 375 of our students are special ed.
And they don't find that number significant?
The raw number is too low. We don't qualify for circuit breaker. It's not about the percentage, but the raw number. It's not high enough for us in order to qualify for circuit breaker.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the information. I really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just one more question,
One more
Mr. Chairman.
question?
John, you're projecting to open the machine shop in September?
Yes,
Hopefully.
we're looking to, in September, well, we'll do our exploratory program from September to January. Then January, we hope to take in 20 to 25 new machine shop students. And we have a agreement with the Department of Housing and Economic Development that commits us to bring in at least 20 new students into that program. We've had some criteria that we had to adhere to and agree to in order for them to give us the grant. And one of them is how many students we're going to take each year, and we guaranteed at least 20.
Yeah, when you schedule the opening, it might be a good idea to invite the company that I mentioned to you, the company that is moving to the city, that is going to require a lot of machinists.
Yes.
Okay, it might be a
Yep.
good idea.
That's what we're hearing everywhere we go, that there's a huge number. And we've had many companies call us this year looking for machinists. We've actually sent some students that are in metal fabrication for machine shop jobs, because they have some metal training.
All right. All right, thank you very much.
Welcome.
We appreciate everything you do for the city of Lawrence and for our students. Mark, we wouldn't have a quorum for the committee. But you,
What happened?
Estela's not here.
What happened to Estela?
She went to the bathroom.
Okay.
I'll send you another email.
Okay.
Haven't gone far.
All right, now let's move on to the Lawrence Public Schools. We have many representatives from the school department today. I know Mary Lou Bergeron is here too, as well. So I don't know who will speak. Okay. All right.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Seth Racine. I serve as the Chief Redesign Officer for the Lawrence Public Schools, and I'm joined by Dr. Bergeron here to present the Lawrence Public Schools proposed FY 2015 budget. We submitted a budget document to the council a couple days ago. It's right here, which will have additional information beyond the city of Lawrence's, the mayor's proposed 2015 budget. We are excited to present this budget because we think it builds on the success of the last last 2 years of the receivership. And this work was recognized last fall when some of our results started to come back after 1 year under the receivership. We've doubled the number of level 1 schools, going from 2 to 4. A lot of our work has also been shown through our student growth data, where after several years of decline, the scores have actually started to increase for the first time, where English student growth grew by 4 percentage points, and math actually grew by 17 percentage points, a huge increase compared to districts across the state. Math proficiency levels have also reached historic highs by increasing by 10 percentage points in just 1 year. And finally, graduation rates and dropout rates continue to reach historic highs and lows, respectively. The 4-year graduation rate increased to 61.3% for 2013, compared to 52% in 2011, and the dropout rates declined from 8.6% in 2011 to 5.8% in 2013. A lot of this work is founded on some of the initiatives that we're going to continue, which includes a longer school day and year. So all of our students in grades 1 through 8 for this school year that's about to end are going to school 200 to 300 additional hours longer. They're going to continue that for next year. We've also had new innovative school models and really pushed our resources down to the school level to empower school leaders and to work with their teachers to develop the type of models that best meet the needs of their students. Every school is different, and the best people to figure out how to do that are those in the school that see these students every single day. And so one of the things that we've really done is try to push resources and information down to the school level to allow them to best develop the models they need. And so this past year, we implemented a more comprehensive school planning process where principals working with teacher leadership teams, representatives of teachers at their schools, used budget information, staffing information, enrollment, academic information to design the type of schedule, calendar, select academic services, determine what kind of enrichment opportunities they want in their school. And they wrapped that up this year and have much more comprehensive plans for next year. So we're really excited to launch those for next year. And so finally, we continue also to push more resources from the central office down to the school level. Last year, we reduced central office by approximately 30% in terms of positions. This year, we took a much harder look at any non-salary costs, and which resulted in about $5 million of all funds, including grants, pushing down from central office to the school level. And so this year here, we are presenting here a $167 million proposed budget. This is based on the state's recommended net school spending level. This is the adequate minimum funding level for the Lawrence Public Schools. And so for next year, actually, that amount is $177.2 million, which is supported by $169 million of Chapter 70 money. After you take away associated costs for charter school tuitions and school choice, as well as municipal-related costs, this number goes down to approximately $159 million. When added again to transportation costs and adult education, this gets to the total budget appropriation by adding together $166 million. I think it was reflected in your budget, but when combined with the capital reserve fund, gets to $167 million. So that's in general a high level about the budget, and happy to take any questions. Do you want to?
Because we know that our budget looks different than it has in the past years, we wanted to just reflect the fact that this year you're seeing an all-funds budget from the Lawrence Public Schools. So you're seeing not only the money that is Chapter 70 related dollars, but you have a listing of all of our grants, and in each school you see how much of that money is also reflected in their budgets going forward. So that you will see on page 8, it shows all of the grants that the Lawrence Public Schools has this year, what we project them to be next year. So we currently have $22.5 million worth of grant funding that comes into the Lawrence Public Schools. We're going to see a slight drop in that next year, well, a little more than slight, 4 million, because certain grants are ending, and we have seen some reductions as our school redesign grants go into their second and third year. They kind of start to slow down as they go towards the end of their time.
Dr. Bergeron, are these
Yes.
grants primarily for like extracurricular activities, or do they also involve academics?
The grants each come in, like the Title I is all pretty academic. It's academic enrichments and academic reinforcements in math, science, and English language arts. Title II is the professional development, support, and coaching and mentoring for staff. Title III is your ESL and English immigrant population, so that you're teaching English language development. IDEA is your special education funds. Full-day kindergarten is because we're still working, we have every child in full-day K, so we do get some support from the state to support the paraprofessionals in those classrooms. And then the others are school redesign for schools that have undergone restructuring and redesign because they were designated level 4 schools, and they're working their way towards moving out of that status into hopefully 201 right away. And then some of these other competitive 21st century schools are after-school enrichment activities for students. And then there's some adult ed money and some graduation-related activities for students at the high school level. So they run the gamut.
Okay. Councilors, are there any questions in what we see on page 8 with the revenue projection?
It's a general question, I don't have anything specific
General question, yeah?
or comment.
Sure. Councilor LaPlante?
Sure. If you are working for the Lawrence Public School System and you're in the chamber, will you please stand up? I'll say that again. If you're currently working for the Lawrence Public School System and you're in the city council chamber, will you please stand up? I know that Superintendent Jeff Riley received a very glowing article in the Tribune the other day about all the great work that he does, but quite frankly, he's not going to get that great work done without the folks like you who are working for him and trying to make that happen. So I want to congratulate you for the great work that you all are doing to try to improve the education for our kids, and I think we're trending in the right direction, and I want to thank you all personally for all the work that you're doing.
It was very nice.
I'm going to make another comment, and I'm not looking for a reaction. This city desperately needs an exam school, some sort of school like that, where we're going to be able to retain our middle class. We're still losing middle class in this city because still, despite all the good work that's been happening, and despite the trends upward, there's a lot more that we can and should be doing. And having that kind of upper echelon school, I think, will help retain the middle class and grow a middle class in our city. So I'm not looking for a comment. I'm throwing that out there as something that I would like to see, or something to that equivalent in our city. Talked about a lot of the good things that are happening. Let me turn it a little bit. Give me 3 of your biggest challenges right now.
I think we're struggling with, we have a lot of brand new to the country students, particularly at the high school level, who are, it's not just a language issue, but it is much interrupted education or no formal education in their own country, coming to us at 15, 16, 17 years old with maybe having gone to the second grade level. So that creates a big gap in terms of the services and delivery and design of work to be able to get them through and be able to reach a diploma level of skill set for graduation. So that's a big challenge. We see probably 500 to 1,000 students per year that are brand new to the country entering our school system. I believe that another big challenge.
How many was that? I'm sorry, say that again.
500 to 1,000 depending on any given year, brand new.
Brand new, they're coming in from where?
Mostly Dominican Republic, but
That's
we're seeing
wonderful.
kids from Ecuador, we're seeing kids from Guatemala, so we have a good population change going on.
That's great news, because that means that our city continues to be the city of immigrants that keeps attracting wonderful
Our
people
numbers
from
are
all over
just
the world.
going through the roof, so I think another challenge is we're gonna be space tight very, very soon.
Okay.
We have an current enrollment of 13,850 students as of today. We're tapped at all of our space, even at the space we've rented for Phoenix, so
I'm sorry, can you repeat again the total population?
13,850.
15,000?
13,850.
13,850.
So it's a large number, and you know, as we go back years, it wasn't too long ago we were down in the 12s, so we're not hurting for students. So space is going to be an issue in the next couple of years that I think we've already mentioned that to the mayor and everybody, that we need to start looking at what else can we do with some of the students that we're wanting to make sure they stay in school with us, and I think that's the good news, is they are staying, and we're seeing more kids making it through to graduation. Another one is, I think, our special education population. We're seeing many more multiply and severely involved students, and a large influx in our students on the autism spectrum that need really significant service delivery, and we've been challenged with making sure we're ramping up as fast as we can to ensure that we're meeting the needs of those students. So those are probably 3 big ones right now.
Okay, so you heard the dialogue that we had earlier regarding the undocumented, and the council president was very good to provide some information. Is there any other information that you have on that can either affirm what he said, or you may have some differences?
Basically, you have to enroll a student as long as they are a resident of the community. Doesn't matter whether they're a legal resident or an undocumented resident.
Okay.
So it's based on their residence, where they sleep and lay their head at night is when you enroll.
Which is the way it should be always, because everyone deserves it. quality education.
So my second question is that we are in a city right now, we're going through a lot of growth. And I think that number, 13,850, you just mentioned earlier, we're going for 12. And yesterday's meeting, you may recall, councilors, I was talking about the spike that we're facing right now in rental properties in the city. In the mill complexes, we are increasing our population base, and it's starting to grow. And somebody said, was it you, Mr. Moreno, talking about capacity? And that was the best word, I couldn't even think of it, which is, at what point do we lack capacity to be able to serve our population?
I think
And-
we're close, we're getting very close to like seating capacity. We've been very creative with some of the resources for our alternative types of students, where we have some flexible activities. We're looking at a lot more options for some online activities for allowing students to be able to do blended types of learning, particularly students who are older and are trying to just finish up their diploma that allows some seating capacity. We've rented some space and are looking at that as an option. So we're being as creative as we can with the space limitations that would be in the 6.7 square miles that we live in.
And I just, what we need to recognize, counselors, in the big policy discussions is that as we are increasing, and we know we've got Union Crossing that's already, I think, fully built out at this point, I think. But we also have right across from here in Union Street, LCW is going to be having another complex, as well as further growth we just voted on for some easements the other day at Malden Mills, and that's going to be growing even more. So I think that while it's all good that we're doing all this great stuff with the mills and getting them back operational and all that, the law of unintended consequences may rear its ugly head, where while we're doing all this great stuff, it has an effect on what these professionals are trying to do in our school system. So as we either promote and take votes on other things, I think we need to at least be cognizant that there's impacts there that will affect not only our basic services, whether it's police, fire, et cetera, but also our school system. So we need to counter that into effect. I just want to, again, for us to continue to be cognizant as we go through further debates on.
We will tell you, we're
yeah.
happy that we're seeing some of our former students who have returned and are in those housing situations and are now working for us.
Oh, there's no doubt.
So there is some
Yeah.
benefit of that boon that has happened to us also.
Hey, listen, one of the reasons why I know that all my colleagues have been very supportive of me when I am standing up there doing the resolutions, and they've been so fantastic to me. What the point of trying to do this, we're trying to retain those individuals who are our best and our brightest, or achievers in our city, and we're gonna be finding some out in a couple of weeks when you give us those names. We want them to stay here. We don't want to lose them to Methuen and North Andover and Boston. We want them to stay in Lawrence. So, so that's the point here. So I fully agree with what you're saying, and that's the point, as we try to recognize them. I think.
Just a point of information, if we didn't have the charter schools and all the private schools that are serving Lawrence students, the Lawrence school system would be blown away.
Would be renting all that space that they're
Oh,
using.
definitely. Because approximately, there are approximately, what, about 3,000 students attending charter schools and
14
approximately?
I want to say it's 1430 or 1432 that are in charter, and another couple of hundred that are in
Yeah, so
choice capacities.
we are very lucky that we have charter schools in the city and private schools that are taking a lot of our students. Otherwise, the Lawrence school system would have never been able to deal with all those students.
Would be challenged, but would step up to that challenge.
So anyway, I mean, the budget, we can't deal with, just like the other school budget, we either approve it all or we can't, so.
Yeah.
But anyway, I appreciate the opportunity to make those comments and a couple of questions.
Councilor Aquino.
And Councilor LaPlante nailed it. That's why we need residency law in Lawrence. By the way, it's a pleasure to have you again here. Yes, you nailed it. You have the point. I know we have partnership with YMCA, Boys and Girls Club. How much is that costing to the school department? How much are we paying for that?
They vary, so it depends on the level of service that they're delivering and how many schools and students they're servicing, so.
Yeah, I can't recall the amount. I mean, I think oftentimes with enrichment, it varies. So some of the schools that have a longer day have brought in enrichment partners during the day. Other times, enrichment partners use sort of one-off, whether there's like an event happening, end-of-year event, maybe at the YMCA or the Boys and Girls Club.
We're probably $200,000 worth of, across our partners.
I would limit it with those two organizations,
No,
so
we
we're
have
open.
multiple partners, so
Okay.
you have those two, we have the YW is doing some work, we've got Imagine that's doing some work with our younger children.
All right.
We've got the Boys and Girls Scouts.
Yeah.
we
I'm
work.
pretty sure you know about YDO. Magnificent. My
YDO
kids,
is actually working with some of our schools currently.
my kids, they are full-time. I think my kids are the only two. They are full-time. They go every day. But I'm so blessed by them. They do theater. They do Destination Imagination that it's around the Massachusetts. And they do engineering. They do science. You name it, they do it. Dance, singing class. I will be so happy, for my kids, because they already in YDO, but I would love to see other kids that are no part of YDO, and I know Estela Reyes, her kids too, in YDO. As a mother, I'm blessed having my kids in YDO.
And what we did is we put out a request for information from all the different providers in the community about what types of enrichment they would have available, and we've shared that with the schools so that they could look at
Yeah.
what their needs are, what their students were looking to do in order to pick their
And the
partners.
space that they have now, oh my God, you guys should look at the space that they have. It's incredible. I'm very happy, and I'm very happy with all the work that Howard Stricker is doing for that organization. Our kids. He's not from Lawrence, but he cares about the kids from Lawrence. He believes in our kids, and he's been doing a magnificent job. I will hope that YDO get the same opportunity as other organizations to bring our kids that are very talented to do theater. I know they've been using the Patham School for the past 3 years, and it's incredible.
Kids are doing some phenomenal things.
Yes, and he has the support from outsiders to come to Lawrence and work with our kids. So I would love to see YDO being part of our school department. Thank you. Oh, one more thing, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I have to
It's
say
okay.
this too. Do you have any plans for the Adult Learning Center? Like, I know it's like an office right now.
Well, they're in the old, they're in the Victorian, across from the, across the
Yeah.
common. They are doing their classes there. They actually have found it's a little snugger, but they say it's very familial, and they're feeling that families are feeling very good about being there for the classes.
Yeah.
We've moved the GED test center out of there, so that's actually with us here at central office, because it's now a computerized, it's the new testing, the high set rather than the old GED test. So it's all computerized, and it's a new model, so that's been taken out of there, so that they have the all classroom space there.
Do you know how many students do we currently have?
The last count
Around?
from Mary, they were in the 400 range between GED prep and ESL. There's still a need for ESL, which we know across the community is still a
Yeah.
need.
Do you know how many people are on the waiting list currently?
I don't know the number of GED, I don't believe there are many in the GED to take their classes. There are some that are waiting for tests because the testing is determined by capability and pre-registration. There are only certain days a week they test, so that there may be a few waiting to take their tests. But in terms of ESL, there's a waiting list across the city. I don't know how many are on our waiting list alone, but I know they're working with the mayor's
Pretty
group
big, right?
around ESL in general in the city.
What can we do to help this? Because right now they are in an office. If you go and you see all the chairs that they have, it's like they don't even have space to breathe.
And I think
It's
that-
one on
that's-
top of the
That's
other.
a concern about our space and capacity, because that is a building that's owned by the city, so
Yes.
that's why we're there.
We don't have any other building that it's,
No, we're barely fitting all of our people, its students, into our buildings, so I know we've been having discussions. We've talked to the city about what other space might be there, and So there are discussions ongoing about that, because we know that as capacity builds,
Oh, yeah.
we're trying to help at the school by doing like family literacy, ESL, in some of our schools after school hours, and that's helping to eliminate the early levels of English development.
All right. Just,
I have a question. I have a couple of questions. Out of the 13,850 students, how many are transported?
Kevin would know that right off the top of your head. How many kids are you transporting?
We transport 2,200 every day to the high school, 2,200 to the high school every day.
To the mic?
I'm sorry,
We transport 2,200 to the high school every day. We transport 800 special needs students throughout the city,
how many specials?
800.
800?
We transport 108 out of the city every day,
How many?
108.
108 out of the city?
And we transport approximately 130 homeless students into the city every day.
Nobody wants to leave us.
Okay. What has been the increase in transportation in the past, for example, from 2000, you may not have that information, but from 2010 to now, what has been the increase in transportation?
2010.
It's gone up somewhat gradually until this year, Counselor. Probably a couple 100,000 a year, 150,000
Couple of
a year.
100,000 a year?
Yeah, the problem that we're facing, and I think Councilor Plant mentioned it earlier, there is a larger number of apartments that are opening in the city. I've never transported from Island Street, from 550 Broadway, from 350 Canal Street. If you think about the Addison apartments that are up behind Boston Market, and you think about the new apartments they put up on the hill a few years ago. So, the population is just increasing in the city, therefore, transportation costs have gone up.
Yeah. I remember back in 2010 that I mentioned this particular issue, and probably it's still the same criticism that I hear all the time about not going out to bid and keeping the same company for, how long has the present transportation company been in place?
Our large buses, we go out to bid on a regular basis.
Sorry?
Our high school buses, we go out to bid on a regular basis.
On a regular basis, but not the special needs or
Not the
anything else?
special needs buses. The special needs buses do not require the bid process to be followed 30B. It's more economical for the city to have one vendor doing both contracts.
I would think so,
It
yes.
certainly is. And when we compare what we currently pay per bus per day to other communities around here who do go out to bid, we are by far getting a better deal because they have both contracts. This will be the first year in a while that they've gone up on their prices on us, and it's reflected in the new budget. But I want to also say it's gone from 6.1 to 6.7. But in that budget, we made sure this year we got some new technology on the buses. So for the first time ever, every one of our sped buses will have cameras and GPS devices in them, which will keep our kids even safer than we already keep them. So it was a good fair contract with them.
Okay. So we are transporting basically, well, almost 3,200 approximately. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Councilor Reyes.
Thank you. And thank you for being here with us tonight, all of you, because I know you're not the only one here. But I just have a quick question. Do you have any plan for the PTA meeting, bilingual, any sort of program that is going to provide translating that meeting? Because I heard from a lot of parents that they don't assist the meeting because it's always in English. Is that something that is still happening, or?
Most of our meetings actually run in both languages. We do have simultaneous translation equipment that any of the PTOs can borrow. You do need somebody who's pretty competent and being comfortable at
Right.
translating at the same time. We do provide for translation services, so any of the PTOs could ask to have a translator come in and be part of that, because we have contracts with two agencies that provide translation. They are doing some programs that are specifically being done, a set in English and a set in Spanish, because I know for some people, they're going back and
Right.
forth.
Right.
Makes the meeting a little longer, and if their time is tight, it's easier if they could do. So some schools are doing one in the morning, one later in the day, or they're doing a series for a couple of days and then doing the next series in Spanish another time. So that they're trying to adjust based on what the needs are of the families.
When you send that invitation home with the kids, is something like it is said in the memo, like this is gonna be like bilingual, this is gonna be translated in any language?
It does, and it says if there's gonna be childcare or any of those, it will tell them that on their notices. But all of our meetings are run in dual language, but some of it is, I talk first and then I get translation versus simultaneous.
No, the reason that I'm asking you that is because I heard from a lot of parents that they don't know all about the program that is assistant for their kids, and they really want to get involved, but the fact that the language barrier, they feel like they don't feel part of that. But if that is something, I think we can start promoting that, so that way they can get involved, and as Councilor Aquino was saying, our kids get involved in everything. We don't have that, fortunately, we don't have that problem, but we know a lot of parents, they do want to volunteer and be part of that, so.
Then we would encourage you, we have our new Family, Community, and Student Engagement and Family Resource Center department. So we're actually opening a Family Resource Center, which will be the place where they can just go to ask those types of questions, that will have fully bilingual staff, so that they can get their questions answered and kind of get them hooked up to the right people for what the work they might want to volunteer and support. So that would be like the good place to funnel everyone for those questions, so that they will be able to be addressed right away if they just put a call into that center.
Who can be the right person if someone wants to serve as a volunteer? Who can be the right person to send it off? You know, any school, like who's going to be the person in charge taking those names?
They should go to Nelson Booton, who is our Community, Family, and Student Engagement Director. And then, depending on which school, they'll help align them to the principal and do the query checks that have to be done for them to be in the schoolhouse.
Thank you for that information.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I think that we have been asking wonderful questions. Similar to Council President Maldonado, I think that transportation is critical to get our students to school. But I think that the bidding process probably has to be opened up more publicly. I don't know how it's been done exactly now. I think that, do we charge per student or per buses?
Per bus.
Per bus.
And we double run our buses, so we get 2 hours of time for every bus that we run in the morning and in the afternoon.
And do we supervise those buses to see if students are riding them at a certain time?
I'll tell you, I know Mr. Clement is out there regularly checking to see, and many of us see them in the morning, how many students are on them.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
So, since we get charged per bus rather than per student, do we ever find that certain buses don't have as many students and others are probably packed with students?
Our problem is our buses have too many students. We very rarely, almost never have less than capacity on our high school buses. Our high school buses are jammed. If you go over to the high school in the morning, we're allowed 55 students on a bus. 53 students, 54 students is absolutely the norm. You know, someone might see a bus in the end of the day going home from the high school, which might be half full. Chances are those other students are staying for after-school activities, and they'll come home on the late buses later. But what we do on the high school buses is we actually oversell them like they do on airline seats. Because we
I'm
really,
sorry, I couldn't hear
we
that.
oversell them like they do on airline seats, because we don't know actually how many students are going to get on the bus. So when we do the 35 bus routes that we have, everybody has a bus pass, we actually give out 120% of what can fit on that bus, because some kids are going to take their car to school, and someone's mom is going to take them to school, and all kind, taxi. So we oversell the seats, and I can tell you that we monitor them once a month. We do a head count from the bus company. Our problem for the first month of the school year is to try to get the numbers down on the bus by adding or switching some things around. Our buses to the high school are packed.
Okay.
Sped buses are the same. I mean, we oversell, you know, the sped buses. We have a lot of students on the special needs buses. Again, you know, a resident might see a small bus with only 2 kids on it, but they don't realize that they're going to pick up 4 more kids before they get to the school. So I would say that all of our in-town special needs buses are at probably 80 or 90% of capacity, and we really use them well. And then we use them twice, as Assistant Superintendent said, we use them twice in the morning.
Okay. Now, just to be able to finish it up, and I think this is more for Dr. Bergeron, is on the expenditure, I see some changes, and it's specifically saying facing now. We have the Bruce School, second grade is moving to the Hennessy School.
Yes.
But then for the Oliver School, it only says that the 7th and 8th grade are facing out, but it doesn't say
They're
what
going
this-
into Up Academy Oliver. So Up
Okay, so-
Academy is going from 6th grade, and they're going to be 6, 7, and 8. So
Okay.
right above it is the school that's going with it.
And how about the South Lawrence East Middle School? It's facing out the 1 grade, but it doesn't say, is
So
it,
that's becoming, Spark is going to be 5, 6, 7,
okay,
and the middle school will just have the last grade 8 that Spark will take over the year after.
okay.
Okay.
And now, in regards to the last item there, additional school positions due to enrollment. It's not necessarily a specific school, so is it gonna be, employees that will be throughout the schools, like all the schools?
So this line reflects what Dr. Bergeron was mentioning earlier about how we have an increase in enrollment, especially around the early childhood grades. So as we look to potentially build capacity, we're looking at different sites to absorb that increase in enrollment. And so we've set aside funding here as well as potential positions to add both classroom positions. So for example, a kindergarten classroom, if we open up one, would require a classroom teacher as well as a paraprofessional who would be in there full-time. And as those classrooms would start to grow, and if an additional site is needed, other support and administrative positions would be needed. So this is more a reflection of, while I mentioned about early childhood, it could also be with students with disabilities. If we need to add another substantially separate classroom, we need to set aside money because enrollment continues to grow. I think it's actually gone up by about 500 to 600 students in less than a year.
Okay, wonderful. All right, thank you.
Just one
One final question?
Just one comment that I think it deserves some researching. We just had the Great Lawrence Technical School here, and they have a total population of 1,322, which I assume that they transport that many students. Their cost of transportation per student is $833 per student, based on the total population. When I do the same with our school, it comes out to $2,120 per pupil, which is extremely high, and it would be nice to know why. I mean, I would like to understand why the transportation cost per pupil is so high.
Well, you have to
The
look,
city of
if you
Lawrence.
were to compare our high school numbers to their high school numbers, it's all big buses, basically. That's a kind of equitable comparison. But when you factor in all the special needs students and the special needs students we're taking out of district, the costs for those are higher because of the run and the rate of the run. So if I have to drive one student in a minivan
Of course.
to
That would cost
a
more.
school that's an hour away, so I can't get a second run out of that bus because now I've already used it for 2 hours just to go to the school and come back. So that's one student that's costing a full bus run.
What is
So
the,
doing
what
that
is the actual,
comparison is-
what is the actual cost for transportation for the high school?
For the high school, we have that,
It's
a
approximately,
million.
I think, $800,000. just
I'm
for-
sorry?
It's approximately $800,000 for.
800,000?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's $409 a student to the high school.
400, okay, 409 per student to the high school.
I'm sorry?
409?
It's $409 per student to the high school.
894?
409.
Oh, 490,
Per
okay.
student to the high
And
school.
9.
So that would be more of a comparable
409.
look at to what the vote would be.
So then the base, you would say that the major portion of transportation costs is
Special ed.
because of special ed.
It's 5 million, 5.1 million or so of that is special education.
Out of that 6-point-something million,
Yeah, it's
5 goes towards
a
special ed.
little over 5 million goes to special
Okay.
education transportation.
Mr. Chairman, I got one real quick question. How many employees are there in the Lawrence Public School System?
100?
2,000, I thought that's where we were at, 2,000,
2,000 employees. I think you're the number one employer in the entire city, right?
I think so.
Okay,
Thank you.
wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, have a good evening.
Are there any members of the audience that have any particular questions to the Lawrence Public School System? This is your budget, your children's budget, so, all right. Thank you very much. Mr. Anello? That's it, right? We have the Chatters and Choice School, but we basically. No, if there's any questions from the counselors, is the number,
177.
so it's page
Those are generally
170.
state cherry sheet assessments.
Do we know how many children are going to our charter schools now? What's the total
I
number?
think that would be an appropriate question for the school department, they would know.
Mrs. Bergeron, through you, Mr., do you know how many students are going through our charter school systems?
1432?
We had 1,200 kids on the common today.
But we had our community day, Arlington was part of that.
Okay, so that's, I just want,
500
that,
of those are our students.
do you consider them charter?
No, they were Lawrence Public School.
Okay. So what's that number again, just the charter school?
1432.
1432? And what's the number of students that are part of the non-charter school but have some sort of ties to the charter school that are part of the LPS?
Oh, okay, then.
That's a
that would
different
be,
question.
Let's see, 5. I'm gonna think now, there were multiples. 5, 7, 10, about 1,200?
1,000.
Yeah, you say you have count all 4?
Yeah,
Phoenix.
yeah.
Okay, about 1,200.
So out of the 13,850, 1,000 is coming, is that part of that, or is it 13,850 include the 14?
13,850, because these schools in our school system that are run by the management companies are Lawrence Public Schools.
Does the 13,850 include the charter 1432
No.
as well as 1,000? No, just 1,000. Okay,
All right.
thank you. 15,000 students in our city.
I do
That's
have a
amazing.
question, Mr. Anello. I know that, if we go to page 177, every year, I mean, at least the 3 years that we see here, there has been expenditure. However, page 177. However, this year, there's $0 recommended for that. And last year, we didn't approve anything, but we did spend $235,373.
These are state the cherry sheet, the state aid that we receive. They also assess us certain amounts. So
Okay.
we don't budget those assessments. We used to. But each year when we still have to record the expense on our books. We gross up the Chapter 70 aid, even though it comes in net. We gross it up, and then we also record the expenses to properly record the revenue and the expenses on our books.
All right.
So you'll see for all these choice and assessments, there's expenditures, but we don't budget for them. They're just cherry sheet assessments, and we record it net. State aid is recorded net in the budget, beginning of the budget document.
All right, wonderful. All right, counselors, this is it for today. Let me just remind the community, our next meeting will be Tuesday, May 27th, and on that, we're going to be meeting at 6:30 PM. The departments that we will be reviewing is the mayor's office, personnel department, employee benefits, veteran services, recreation department, inspectional services, public health, licensing, Department of Public Works, and the water and sewer department. Once again, it will be at 6:30, Tuesday, May 27th. Councilors, can I please get a motion to table this document 176-14?
Second.
Motion to table has been made and second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Councilors, can I please have a motion to recess?
Second.
Motion has been made and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a good night.